Chromium in the body. Chromium is an essential trace mineral needed by us. Chromium works with insulin to help our bodies use blood glucose, also called blood sugar. Chromium are also involved in the metabolism of macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. How much chromium do we need? For adults aged 19 and older, the recommended adequate daily intake, VAI of chromium, is 20 to 35 micrograms daily. How does chromium work in our bodies? After absorption, chromium binds to the iron transport protein transferrin for transport in the blood. Chromium is involved in carbohydrate, protein and lipid metabolism. When carbohydrate is consumed, insulin is released and binds to receptors in the cell membrane. This binding triggers the uptake of glucose by cells. Chromium acts as part of a small peptide that binds to the insulin receptor after insulin is bound. Chromium enhances the binding of insulin to the receptors in the cell membrane. When chromium is present, chromium activates a small peptide inside cells by binding to the peptide. This activation enhances the action of insulin by binding to the insulin receptor in the cell membrane, which increases glucose uptake by the cells. When chromium is deficient, the active peptide is not formed and thus cannot bind the insulin receptor, resulting in less effective insulin and less glucose entering the cell. Consequently, more insulin is needed to produce the same effect when chromium is deficient. It is reported that chromium deficiency symptoms may include impaired glucose tolerance with diabetes-like symptoms, such as elevated blood glucose levels and increased insulin levels. Chromium deficiency may also cause elevated blood cholesterol and triglyceride levels. However, overt chromium deficiency is not a problem in the Canadian population. What are the excellent food sources of chromium? Dietary sources of chromium are animal liver meat, brewer's yeast, and whole grains. That said, cheese, eggs, meat, whole grain baking products, beans and peas are all good sources of chromium as well. Broccoli, grape juice, red wine, and dried garlic are good sources of chromium too. Last but not least, cooking in stainless steel cookware can increase chromium intake because chromium leaches from the steel into the food. Sue Tasty made this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.